Hi, my name's Sandy Russell, and I'm a trial attorney. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about what it means to represent people as opposed to representing the government or a big insurance company or a corporate client. For the most part, regular people don't have any money to hire lawyers. So the only way that they're going to get representation is if the lawyer views their case as a case that they can recover or recoup an investment in. Because most cases do require an extensive amount of legal research, attorney time, and also expense. And because people also don't have a lot of money to hire a lawyer, they also don't have a lot of money to pay the expenses of cases. What that means is that the lawyers, when they decide to take the case, often bear the burden of paying those expenses on behalf of the client in the hopes that they will eventually recover a settlement or a verdict at jury trial that they can recover the money from and make a profit. Private lawyers are in business. They are in business to make money, just like you go to work every day and you do that for money. Lawyers, that's how we earn our living. And sometimes it pans out. Sometimes the cases you get paid on, and sometimes you get paid nothing. So as a matter of practice, lawyers do try to be very careful about which cases they do decide to take and doing their cost-benefit analysis and making sure that it is going to be a case that they can win or that they can succeed in getting a settlement for the client, so that they can recover the time and expense that they put into the case. With that said, not all cases are gonna be attractive or money-making, and a lot of cases, even though they may have merit, may not justify the tremendous expense of litigation, and so an attorney may turn it down for those reasons. So having that understanding in mind, usually plaintiffs' lawyers are working on a contingency fee basis, and that's what we call that. It's a contingency fee. So when they take on a case for the plaintiff, that means that the plaintiff doesn't pay any money to the attorney or for any of the expenses. The attorney is working solely based on whether or not they can recover money at the end. So if they lose, they get nothing, and if they win, then they recover their fees, their costs, and then the client gets what's left. So that is how I mostly operate for a lot of my plaintiffs' cases. Most of the cases that I have taken on and fought and taken to trial have been on a contingency fee basis. And usually I'm going up against very large corporations and insurance companies that have many lawyers on their team. They have a whole staff of people. They have unlimited resources and unlimited funds to go hire experts and to pay for fancy demonstrative aids and things like that to present their cases to the jury. I, on the other hand, am limited in my resources and limited in my funds. They usually have, 5 lawyers to my 1, and what their practice is to bury us with motions. They try to keep us so busy that we can't actually focus on our clients' cases and prepare their cases for trial. So there's an art to trying to balance and keep up with all of the things that get thrown at you and being able to work on your case and prepare it and be ready when the time comes to take your case to trial. As you can imagine, because of the time and expense involved in litigation, many cases do settle. There are fewer and fewer cases taken to trial these days. Only about, I think 98% of all civil litigation cases do result in a settlement. So there's only about 2% that make it to a trial or get in front of a jury. So, and I like to refer to this as sort of it's a battle, and it's a David and Goliath story almost every time. This is especially true when you're going up against the government. I've also handled a lot of criminal cases, both as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney. Being a prosecutor, I'm going to, kind of do another video on the differences between being a prosecutor and being a defense attorney or a civil litigator. But the differences are pretty stark. It's a lot easier to be a prosecutor when you have the government on your side. Basically, the government's your client. The government has unlimited resources, unlimited money. So it's basically the same as going up against a big corporation. You're the little guy. You're fighting for people. You're fighting for people's rights. You're fighting for people's constitutional rights. And so you're the underdog. And it is incredibly difficult to go up against those odds, whether it's the government or whether it's a corporation or insurance company. It is just altogether a much, much more difficult task to represent the people. And it is a battle. And when you go into battle, sometimes you get hit, and I have been hit and I've taken my hits, but I have always worked very, very hard and fought very hard for my clients in all of their cases. And it is always a David and Goliath story. And you have to be really creative and think outside the box and come up with ways to combat the different targets or the different hits that you're going to get from the corporations and the government. It is just a much more difficult area to practice in. The thing I want you to take away from this is that it's much harder for people, regular people like you and me, to get access to justice. For the simple reason that it's going to be much, much harder for you to get a lawyer. And if you can't get a lawyer, you're going to have to represent yourself, which is almost an impossibility nowadays. And B, it's so expensive that even if you can find a lawyer, unless you're able to get a lawyer to work on a contingency fee basis, you're probably not going to be able to afford to maintain a legal representation in your case. And that's a concern for me. That's something I would like to work on when elected as judge. And I'd like to see more access or better access for people to the courts, and to find ways that we can reduce the expenses and costs of litigation so that it's a more fair system. Thanks for listening to What It's Like for a Lawyer to Represent Real People. Check out my other videos on my YouTube channel, and remember to vote for me on November 3rd.